Hi, this is Arun from arunsyoga.in. I'm a software engineer who mostly work with Node.js, PHP, and other backend technologies. And I'm an open source contributor as well. I'm a tantric by birth in a family which is passing tantric wisdom from generations to generations from past 2000 years of legacy, and got lucky to travel across India and got chances to study under various gurus from different backgrounds and disciplines. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in. Here I'm helping you to design a divine lifestyle which is based on Vedic astrology, tantra, and other yogic system of understanding. In this podcast, we are having a guest. His name is Jacques Marais. He is from the UK. He is a sexological body worker. In this podcast, we are talking about different types of orgasm and the Kundalini serpent, his journey towards the sexological body working, the yoga, the differences between orgasm and ejaculation, breath works that could increase the length of orgasm. However, the discussion has went on more than that we have initially thought, so that reading of his chart is splitted into another episode. Stay tuned for that. Let's begin this special episode, Erotic Mysticism and Beloved Kundalini Goddess. Also, you could connect with him through his website www.wisdomthroughpleasure.com. So yeah, thank you to come to the podcast. So I would be really interested to know who you are, what is your background, what all are your work, and what was your journey, how do you reach it, this particular point of time, and how do you feel about what you have done so far, and like that. Can you talk about these things?
Okay, it's quite a long journey. I know our theme is sexual energy and Tantra today, so I could probably talk about everything from a scientific perspective or from a Tantra perspective, but I actually like to bring in both, as I'll use some Tantric terms and Tantric ways of thinking about things, but also some science and so on. So I'll start with my story. I was born in South Africa, and about 20 years ago I moved to the UK. So I studied actuarial science. I worked in the city for many years, and you can really say I was one of these people who was working long hours, very stressful, always in the city, lots of finance numbers, and you know the type that always, with a tie on and a lot of stress, not enough time, and so on. And it was about 5 years ago that I was also very interested in the BDSM scene. So I don't know if you know much about BDSM.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not just sexuality, but usually in related with, it's an acronym for bondage, dominance, submission, sadism, masochism. So you introduce pain in a sexual context and so on. A lot of what they do in BDSM is similar to what some Western Tantra people do, but then in other cases it's really different. In my mind, they're trying to achieve the same thing just in a different way. Um, and I got interested in sort of doing exercises to increase my sexual experience, because I found BDSM was a very internal experience. I know a lot of people don't view it this way. I see it as a sacred experience, very spiritual. It's something that you go inside and you're actually looking at what you are experiencing as a person in, and then what that means for your life outwards. So in, out. Um, so I started reading on the internet, sort of what exercises can I do? And I read about these things called PC muscle exercises, which you can also do for men. And at the time I was working abroad, and I had a lot of time to myself and so on. So I started doing these exercises where you actually tighten the muscles together with certain breathing in your pelvic floor. This probably for about 3 months of doing this, say for at least half an hour every day, didn't do anything. And I just thought, well, this is sort of silly. I thought maybe it'll improve my sex life, maybe it'll, and it didn't actually do anything until at some point when I realized, like, wow, with the exercises, I can actually now pull up my testicle. And I think if it wasn't for that moment, I probably would have stopped. So I got excited. Well, things are happening, but actually sexually, they didn't actually do anything. But it was only after about another 3 months of doing this every day, and I'd say every day because I think it has to be done every day, where things really started changing. I started noticing that a sort of tingling sensation at the bottom, not just in my genital, but further inside. And then I started realizing that this tingling sensation feels a lot like what we would call an orgasm, but a very light, very sort of tingling, something there and so on. And I thought, this is very interesting. What is this? And I spent a lot of time sitting, but what if I do this? What if I pull that muscle? What if I pull that muscle? And I was actually sitting, focusing on the different muscles in my pelvic region. I didn't know what I was doing. What I realized later is that actually I wasn't actually tightening the PC muscles. I was actually doing other muscles and so on. So from a Tantra perspective, they would call this your root chakra. And I was actually spending a lot of time focusing on my root chakra. And we would call it generating sexual energy. So this is actually what you do when you have sex. It's actually your body starts generating sexual energy in that very same region. And then when the energy reaches a certain point, this sort of flows over into orgasm. And this conversion from our normal energy into sexual energy is something that I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about Tantra. I was just trying something I read on the internet. So you can imagine me going, oh, well, that feels nice and so on. And then at some point I realized that if I sort of shift my hips as well and focus on the back of my spine, that tingling would pull up the back of my spine. So you can really say my story is almost like discovering Tantra like a child. I didn't know anything. I was just discovering. And then it's sort of the tingling would sort of be almost like pins and needles, but sometimes sharper and sometimes bigger. And then it was literally one day, I was sitting on the train, also, tightening the muscles, doing the breathing, and this energy just like shot up my spine and so on. And I got this like big pelvic orgasm on the train. And I was just, oh, wow. Oh my God, I could just like through breathing and muscle exercises, I could make myself orgasm. And it's different to like what I would call a penis orgasm. If you think, I think if you have male genitals, you have an orgasm, it's sort of your penis gets a bit hot just before you orgasm, and that's the sexual energy inside the penis. But if that heat can be pulled inside, you actually orgasm at a deeper level inside, more towards your anus, maybe around the prostate as well. And this I just found bizarre. So I started playing more and got really interested in anal play. I tried different toys with the prostate, and especially with anal sex, and found that the prostate is probably closer to that area where you feel the warmth inside and the orgasms. I managed to get much bigger orgasms through anal play in the prostate than I could otherwise, and actually found it easier while doing that play to pull that energy up. And then in the BDSM scene, doing different things, I would start getting big prostate orgasms from doing this, and this is with no ejaculation whatsoever. I ended up not liking ejaculation that much because it was sort of once you ejaculate, then you sort of feel tired. So I played a lot around with this until you pull the energy up to this point where you would say just behind your heart, And from there, the energy just blows out to the rest of your body. And this, I learned later, is what they call a full body orgasm. And you can actually initiate that by focusing on certain areas of your spine. And I found certain areas of the spine, you focus on that, it's got a much more powerful response than other parts. Later on, and I'm talking about only 2 years later, I learned these are what they call chakra points. And then people would tell me, oh, chakra points don't exist. I'd tell them, no, no, no. When you learn to focus on them, they do. I didn't even know what they meant. I didn't even know what the significance was or anything. It was just, again, I was learning.
I have a question like, how do you distinguish between the ejaculation and orgasm? Like as a man, when we ejaculate, there will be a certain feeling. So what is the difference between that and an orgasm?
So ejaculation is the physical process where the muscles contract in order to ejaculate sperm out your urethra, out your penis. So it's a physical process. The orgasm is a sensation. It's the nerves. You can orgasm in any part of your body. It's just that when we're born and the way we are brought up, we're just taught that our orgasm, your orgasm is run by your autonomous nervous system. It's like, it's not under your mind's control, but you can teach it to be under your mind's control. It's just almost like breathing. So if you forget about it, your body breathes, but you can focus and you can change it. But your orgasm is a bit, so it's a sensation. It's the nerves going buzzing. So that to me is the main difference between ejaculation. So at some point, I had this really big experience, and it was after a lot of sexual play, and it's almost like this heat started at the bottom of my spine, and this heat came up, and it just hit the top of my head here, and I had a sort of, how should you say, almost like explosions with bright lights, and I just thought, wow, this is an amazing type of orgasm, one I'd never experienced. And it was probably for like an hour after that, I couldn't move. I was just like totally numb and just thinking, wow, that's an amazing thing. And it was really strange. This event changed me forever. I didn't know what it was. I later learned this is what they call a Kundalini awakening. I learned so much after this, and I was actually seeking for answers after this so long. But at that point, straight after that event, my ejaculation and orgasm split. So I would say have sex or even masturbate, and I would ejaculate with no orgasm. Or I would orgasm in different parts long before I'm ejaculating or even after, and so on. And there's lots of different types of orgasms in different parts of the body. They feel different intensities. Some last for ages. And at this point, everything opened up in my body. It's almost like if you can focus on one part of the body, and then it takes a while to move the energy to another part, and you have to breathe and focus and do muscle exercises. And it used to be a long time before I can actually move. It used to take me about 20 minutes to move the energy just up up one chakra point to the next part of my spine. Once the awakening came, it was just within seconds. I could just focus here, focus there, everything, and so on. This had a profound effect on my life in the fact it was not just about orgasms anymore. It wasn't about sex anymore. It was everything changed. I felt my whole consciousness started expanding. I became hypersensitive to everything around me. I started feeling not just my own energy in my body move, but other people's. I started seeing auras. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that, but that really freaked me out. I started losing sleep there was about 18 months where I only slept a few hours a week sometimes. My emotions became erratic. I'd have these massive emotional outpours of just like feeling in love with people, and then 2 days later, massively depressed. And it was this real, maybe in the world of Tantra, you've heard of Kundalini awakenings. At the time this was happening, I had, again, no idea what was going on with me. I just thought like, wow, this is amazing. But then there's also like a dark side to it. I
So
don't know.
the thing is like I studied the speaker. So I started to learn about the tantra from my parents itself, because it's not like the sexual application of the same. It is about how to deal with the samsara. In India, we differentiate
Yeah.
the life into two different aspects. Like one is spiritual aspect, another one is samsara aspect. So
Okay.
whoever want to deal with the samsara aspect, they have to deal with the tantric energy, which is like astrology, Vedic astrology, and Yandra, Mantra, Tantra, which all comes into Saundarya Lahiri. This is 100 verses which is been written by Sri Shankaracharya. Then Kama Sutra, then Tantra Samuchayam. The science of Vastu comes under this thing. So there are totally 4 things we have to learn. I mean, at least we have to go to somebody who knows all these 4 to understand, to deal with the samsara, the everyday activity. So also after coming out from my home, I joined my engineering. These times I went to ashrams, gurukulas, and started to travel across different temples and started to talk with yogis and teachers into different disciplines and all together stuffs like that. So one thing I understood, when we go deep, mysterious thing, the life around us will be become like erotic life. So
Mhm.
if we see inside the mysticism, how much mystic you have become, the life around you will be become erotic. That is true. That is experience actually. And Guru also says the same in one of his book. I saw the true mystic is the one who can see God in woman's body. This is
That
this
is
has
such
been
a beautiful description.
this has been written by Nataraja Guru in one of his forward for Saundarya Lahiri. He done structural analytic for the Saundarya Lahiri, and he has written a forward in one of its cover. It's saying like this way, like the true yogi is the one who can see I mean the God in woman's body. I mean, if it's a woman, she should be able to see the God in a man's body. So
Mm.
that is when the God will start to, I mean, God is erotica basically. It's you know this is whether the larger community accept to this or not. I really don't know whether the samsaric people or the society socially will accept it or not. But when we speak about subjective experience level, this is something which I have experienced. Like God is erotica. Like
I
Rumi says one of his poetry that all the beautiful things in this world is created for the eyes which it can see. You see?
that is so beautiful. To be honest, it was only through Tantra and learning a lot about India that I actually found anyone or any books that could relate to what was happening to me. So, but what you're describing in that God is erotica and that everything becomes erotic, that there were these moments, probably around 3, 4 months after my awakening, where everything became orgasmic. Everything I touched, everything was like an orgasm. I started orgasming the whole time, and it reached these sort of times when I had like these out of body experiences. And uh, there were times when it was like, it felt like I could feel the connection between everything, everything. And it's almost like everything is love. There's like, love is what connects everything. And this feeling of just being at one with everything and to be able to swim in that love, it's, to me, so I don't know anything about India or anything, but what you're saying really resonates, because that's exactly how it feels. It's beyond orgasm. It's not, orgasm is like a celebration of our bodies, but when you start feeling into everything around you, it's more than that. It's almost like God and the universe and consciousness is love, is what binds the consciousness and the universe, everything together. And I remember reading about Shiva Shakti in the concept of Shiva being the consciousness and Shakti being the earth, and she's at the bottom and he's at the top, and it's the joining of these two. That, I really love that idea, is that God is consciousness. When they combine, used to be Brahma. And that combination of the two is what makes the universe. This is my rudimentary understanding of.
So yeah, if you wish to know about that, this is what I understood by traveling in India. In India there is a concept called Arthanarishwara. It is half woman and half man, like yin and yang, like
Exactly.
negative and positive. So
Mhm.
goddess, the Shakti is being the Prakriti, what we call it, is the subject. Goddess is the
Mhm.
subject, whereas the Shiva is the object. And when
Mhm.
they two unite together, uh, the remainder is complete and it is zero. There is, I mean, it is zero also, it is one also, it is both middle. When so that space, in that particular space, uh, we feel like we will be become creative. Like when a woman and a man comes together, what happens is like it open up a new way of life to earth. It open up a new life. In the same way, there is Shiva and Shakti in our body. When we unite it through meditation or a deep breathing, what happens? We started to resonance the power of creativity through our body, and our body become creative, and we will be become creative. So this is the core of the wisdom all the philosophers or whatever the mystics or whoever is seeking. That is when the dance become the dancer and the dancer become the dance. So there is no separation, there is no duality, non-duality will happen. uh,
So, so this is gonna, and I'll probably speak to more Westerners out there, because I think in the Western world, when they hear anything about Hinduism or Tantra, they take it with a pinch of salt. They think that's just another religion and all of that and so on. But for me, this was a direct experience where I started going into my body, feeling things, and that the result was so intense, changed my life completely. And it was only in um, Indian learnings and maybe a little bit from the Taoist that actually made sense of what I could do. There's no westernized religion or any structure that can help people like me, or even like there are no ashrams in Europe. There are no gurus you can talk to that can help you with this stuff. You really, when you have these spontaneous awakenings, it's difficult. It's really difficult. There's nothing like that out there. So I'm kind of envious of people living in India, but it's also, I think I would also wish to speak to people like me, or the old me, like what needs to happen in your life for you to get closer to God. And I think orgasm is a really, it's a solid path, because that is a direct experience that it not just changed my body, it changed the way I think, it changed the way I feel about the world. It gave me experiences like nothing else you could imagine. And all of this through orgasm. I think orgasm is one of the last things available to the Western world, who they don't do yoga, they don't meditate, but it's one of the last things available to people in the Western world to actually open themselves up to the energy moving. I have met other people who've had these awakenings, and they said the same thing: is there's in the Western world, there's no help for people like, when you go through these experiences. I actually went through a lot of time, then actually, how should you say, my scientific cap. I tried different types of orgasms, and I tried to sort of categorize different orgasms in myself and see, like, what if I do this, what works, what doesn't work, and maybe understand myself better. At the same time, my life was falling apart. I've lost pretty much most of my friends. Today I realize it's just that they were friends, but it's in a very sort of egotistical way. It was all just like we would just meet up and then just have a certain pattern that we always follow, and it actually just didn't interest me anymore. Also, I lost my job. I couldn't work in the way I was, mostly because I became too sensitive to people. And you can't sit there at work and explain to people, well, my Shiva and Shakti are connecting more. Please bear with me.
No. I can understand that. What is happening, man? My Shiva and Shakti just exploded on that.
Yeah.
It will be like.
So I quit work, and I looked for some advice, and I went to different parts to heal myself. I also found some people that work in Tantra and don't know what they're talking about, and that actually caused, I would say, more harm than good. And I became very skeptical about talking about it, because a lot of people want to talk about sexual energy, and it's a dangerous thing. If you start messing with sexual energy and you don't know what you're doing, and I speak from experience, you can cause more damage to yourself. You need to, I also felt a lot of people who give advice, they give advice because they want you to be a client of theirs, or they give advice in terms of what they know. So if they don't know what you're going through, or they'll give advice, they know exactly what you're going through, but they're trying to push you in a certain direction, in a certain way of thinking. And this is when I thought, like, this is not working for me. And I mean, my psychiatrist that I was seeing, she was really interested in Kundalini, and she helps people with awakenings, but she had a Buddhist background, and she was, how should you say, always talking about Buddhism. And I just felt the Buddhist way of thinking, it's excluded the sexuality side of things. And I think my awakening was very sexual, and it's not that it excluded it, but it just doesn't view it as something that you need on the pathway towards ascension. So I decided to leave that, and I decided to just go it my own way. And that is the journey that's still happening. I thought, well, maybe I can teach other people what I'm doing, because I feel like all my time spent focusing on my own body is now I can actually teach people how to awaken to their energy, how to actually move energy in their bodies. But I was also scared to just study something Tantra, because in the West, Tantra can mean anything. I don't think there are people who are like, as you say, escort services. They say they'll give you a tantra massage. It's not. It's actually just an erotic massage with the word tantra on. And then there are people who know a lot, who no one will listen to just because it sounds too detailed, too religious for most Westerners to actually. So what do I do that's something in between? And this is where I found sexological bodywork, which I found it's not the whole story, but because the focus is on the neuroscience, like what is happening in our nervous system during sexual pleasure and orgasm, etc.
And
And
what is the difference between a sexological body worker and an escort service?
okay, so in sexological bodywork, the aim is an educational purpose. So you can go to a sex worker or an escort, they give you pleasure. So, which is great. A lot of people, we say we want intimacy or we want pleasure, and they provide that. The sexological body worker will not only, we can provide pleasure as well, but that's not the goal. The goal is an intention of what do you want to change about your sexuality? What do you want to learn? And to learn how your sexuality works. So most of the time there's exercises to be done. Most of sexological body work, it's like yoga. You go and do it on yourself. We'll show you how to do it. But the real thing is when you are focusing on your body, and this is what is the real purpose of sexological body work, is just like yoga, embodiment. The more our brain is connected to our body, the more we're in touch with our emotions, our happiness, our desires. Because if we're not in touch with our desires, then we don't know what we want. And then how do we know what's going to make us happy? So, and especially in the Western world, so many people are not embodied. And sexological bodywork just views this as in sexuality is a great way and a very powerful way to increase embodiment. And a lot of the exercises are not sexual at all. They're actually just focusing on your body and to see what comes up. So the big difference is the educational purpose between seeking pleasure and it's, I wouldn't call it a form of therapy because it's the person themselves sets the intention rather than actually saying this is what we're going to do and you make of that what you want. So it's very personalized. What I also liked about it is that it includes touch. So most therapies, like psychotherapists, are not allowed to touch you, but for sexological bodywork, we are. And I feel touch and connection, and especially moving energy between people, especially in Tantra, is very important for to learn and to get connection and to heal. When you actually go to a healer that can touch you, I think is very powerful. This has all been, dare I say it, destroyed by the coronavirus, the lockdown. We're not allowed to, still not allowed to form groups or touch people in a professional way. So that's not happening at the moment, and it's very sad as the last few months have been quite bad. But I actually feel there's a reason this happened. I'm just not sure why yet.
This is like this time you will get more time to sit in home across the globe. Everybody get more time to sit in home and observe what is happening inside them, and it's
Yeah.
actually like the question, what am I? Who am I? We can actually ask ourselves, and there is no much rat race and sort of stuff. There is no much pollution. There is not much running before that and this and those. So it's a
And
perfect time for asking ourselves, who am I? What am I? What am I doing? Sort of stuff.
yeah, and to actually sit and ask those questions rather than just being busy the whole time and your work demanding all your time to think, you can actually sit at home and ask these bigger questions. What am I doing with my life? Where am I going? And I think a lot of people are asking these And then even widening that is, so if we're going to go back to work, well, maybe we don't need to work so hard. Maybe if we focus more on connecting with people and being happy, then this is the way we want to go. Why should we always just go rush back into this world that everyone else wants us to be in? If we can survive lockdown, then surely maybe this is the way we can be looking forward. It's probably not going to happen, but I think the question and the seed of the question is across the whole globe. Everyone is starting to realize and ask these questions. The seed has been planted. Yeah.
And that is a nice thing has been happened actually. So yeah, if somebody tell you that you are not different from the whatever the escort service is being uh, offering, how do you respond to that particular comment?
I would ask them, what do you want from this session? What do you want to learn? And I don't think any escort would ever ask that. I think someone who is looking to get a blowjob, or someone who is looking for intimacy, and then the person asks them, what do you want to learn? And I'm not going to do anything until you tell me what you want to learn. I think it's quite quickly they start realizing, oh, it's not about me just having pleasure. Like, oh, my body is having pleasure and I'll enjoy that and then I'll go home and, you know. Now I actually have to think, what do I want to learn? And I also ask them, what do you want to change about your sex life? What do you want to change? Actually, an escort would say, well, you're here for a certain reason, but then they're not going to ask you because they're just doing the job of what you ask. But I'm actually going to ask you, what do you want to change about yourself? And then give you exercises to go home and actually change them.
So if somebody asks you to give whatever the escort service is offering to do, how do you respond to this?
If they say, can I give them a massage with a happy ending? I would ask them, what would you learn if I do that? And let's say they say, I would learn to feel more pleasure. I would say, okay, we can do that. But while I'm doing this, also when we do this, I wear gloves. I also agree what we're going to do up front. And so I will help them. But during this time, I will ask them to focus on certain pleasure. I'll also ask them, what do you want me to do during this time that would make it even feel better? So what am I doing? I'm actually connecting them to their desires and to their pleasures. So they're asking the question of themselves, what do I want? What do I want to learn? So I'd ask them questions during this. What do I need to do to make it feel even better? What could we do in order for you to change something about your sex life so that you don't need to come to me again? You don't need to go because you can actually find pleasure within yourself. We'd also talk about masturbation. A lot of people, I find almost everyone, have a certain pattern of masturbation. So the way your nervous system works, it follows it likes the same story. So if you always think the same thoughts, you end up with the same conclusions. Your body is the same. If you give it the same input, it gives the same output. So they form like a pathway towards the orgasm. So they masturbate and they do the same thing. And then they orgasm at the end. Then when they have a partner, they actually might struggle to orgasm because their body is not given the same input. Or they even struggle to get an erection because they their body is used to a certain pattern and they only get that from masturbation. So how do you change that? Well, you have to do it step by step. Maybe that is what they want. Maybe the only way they can get pleasure is by going to see an escort over and over. Seeing an escort again and again and again is not going to solve the problem. The real problem is that you formed a pattern in your life that we could address if you would like to change that. So I also believe that actually when you're touching someone, especially certain chakra points, and you enter someone's aura invited, you can actually change this when you can actually feel the person's energy. And this is where I feel touch is really important. I feel like this was a talent I developed since the awakening. It made me very sensitive to the outside world. Like I couldn't go to restaurants anymore. I couldn't, even walking outside seemed extremely stressful because I would like pick up other people's, the sort of level where they're at, especially in the city. It gets incredibly stressful. But this is a talent. It's something you can use to actually help other people to know, to sort of feel a person's body and to see, oh, okay, well, that chakra point needs a bit more effort. And this part, not so much. And then let's dig deeper into that and see how you feel about that. So I do feel touch is very important when doing healing. You need the psychological aspect as well. So you need to talk, but touch and the physical, this is why it's called body work. I don't think sexological body work is the only thing I'll ever do, and so on, but at the moment I believe in it quite strongly. It's also quite, it's LGBT friendly, so we help anyone of all sexualities. I myself am bisexual, so I feel very strongly about it, that it's inclusive as well. Would you like to move on to orgasms? I could talk about some exercises that I teach.
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you have any other questions, just stop me. And so, so this is something I learned from doing it myself. And actually later on, I didn't know what I was doing, like I was saying earlier on. And then later on, I actually looked at the science and the neuroscience behind it. And it started making a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot of sense from a chakra perspective, from a tantra perspective, looking at different chakra points. So you've got certain muscles. If you take male genitals and then you go downwards underneath the testicles, there's an area called the perineum. So, and then if you've got a vagina and a vulva, that is sort of the same area. The perineum is actually really thin, a small part between the anus and the vagina, vaginal opening. But it doesn't matter what your sex, there are certain muscles called the bulbospongiosus muscles. So they lie, if you take your anus and then move. Do you want to do this exercise with me right now?
Okay.
Okay. So if you sit on your chair and sit on, if your chair is hard, it's probably better. So sit on your anus, okay, so that your anus is as flat as possible on the chair.
Okay.
Can you feel it? Okay. Now tilt just a little bit forward, so that the area about an inch in front of your anus, on the testicle side of your anus, that you're sitting on that area. Okay. So in Taoism, they call this the $1 million spot, and it's actually a little indent at the real base of your penis. Okay. And around that spot are these bulbospongiosus muscles. These muscles pump when you ejaculate. They pump. For a man, it's under just a little bit under a second. You can actually press that point when you ejaculate, or you could press that point now, and you can feel it pump when you ejaculate. For people with vaginas, it also pumps, and the muscles that look a little bit different. They actually go around the vagina, and they also contract, and so on. The contractions are a little bit slower for people with vaginas, but it's the same muscles. Doesn't matter what our sex, the same muscles. So our nervous system is used to that. If these muscles contract, we orgasm. So what happened to me is that this connection got removed. But for most people, these two are together. So we're going to use that. So what you're going to do is while you're sitting on them, you're going to try and push down. Try and push all your hip muscles, but you can maybe even put 2 fingers and put that on there, and then try and push down.
Okay.
It might feel very weak. It's not such a big muscle. It's actually, when it goes, it really pumps, but it's not such a big muscle. It's not like your anus muscle is actually quite big in relation. So your anus, you pull tight and you can really feel them. So these muscles are also the ones that pump. They tighten slightly when you get stimulated. They tighten slightly and they help pump blood into your penis. It's the same muscles for people with vaginas. They help pump blood into what they call the seminal vesicles, and the whole vaginal opening sort of swells up and you get engorged. So a woman will get a woman should not have sex until she's engorged, because else it can be really uncomfortable and you can do damage. And this usually takes longer for a person with a vagina than a person with a penis. For people with penises, they get engorged and erection like that. For people with women, it's all about yin energy, and it's slower, and you need to take your time before they get excited. It's not a rule, but it's a tendency. Some people are different. So what we're going to do is so once you've found those muscles that you tighten on, we're going to breathe into them. So you find a lot of breathing exercises you find in Tantra are actually, they tighten the muscles on the in-breath and then they release on the out-breath. And that's really, really good for relaxing. So you might, some yogic breathing is usually, you do the belly breathing, you do yoga, right?
Yeah.
Of course you do yoga. So you do belly breathing. So it means you push your belly out on the in-breath. And then on the out breath, you're going to tighten the muscle.
Okay.
So imagine what it's like when you orgasm. Well, not you orgasm. Imagine somebody else's orgasm. What do they do? They always tighten the muscle on the out breath.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes they also hold it. Someone who's orgasming big, they go, and they hold the breath there on the out breath.
Yeah. And they collapse.
Yeah. So we're taking those habits that our body have, and we're going to replicate them. And then what else are we missing? So we're doing breathing, and we're doing the muscle exercises. What else are we missing? Sound. And they do this a lot in Tantra, is we actually make the sounds when we orgasm. It's not just an expression that we're actually making the sound so that our bodies resonate. So all our chakra points have like different frequencies that they resonate at. So you'll often find men orgasm, they go, ah, and different people's frequencies are a little bit different. And this comes very natural. You need to find the sound you make when you orgasm. Some people, mine's quite high actually. Some people go, ah.
So the thing is like, this is called Mooladhara.
Yes.
This is called Mooladhara. This has been from one book called Devi Sahasranamam. In India, we believe this is where the goddess is residing.
Exactly.
So once it's been awoken, that is called Kundalini awakening.
Exactly.
And somebody who has awoken this power is actually a yogi. because he don't need sex in order to being in a state of mind, and whereas he didn't neglect sex also.
Hmm.
Yogis are
Explain
somebody,
that.
huh?
Could you explain and elaborate by
Like,
donating sex?
you know, for instance, people think celibacy, where people won't have sex. So usually believe that whoever is dealing with the yogic system or the things which is believed to be related to do with God, those peoples are usually sex free, things like that. But what is happening once the kundalini awakening is happened, you don't need a touch or an external entity. Like as a man, you may needed a woman to uh, feel in a calm state of mind, you know because whenever the busy things are happening, sex is actually a relaxation also. It's a release.
Hmm.
A lot of things is getting released from the body. uh, so somebody who knows what is happening, who is able to channelize this particular energy properly through the Eda Pingala. There is two nadis are there. It looks like snake. It will come like
The
the word.
Pingala and the Ida.
Yeah, it's like the snake. It will connect to
Yeah.
Sahasrara. So whoever
Yeah.
knows how to channelize this properly through Ida and Pingala, we call it as, in yogic system of understanding, we call it as Ida and Pingala. This is like two
Hmm.
thing, and this is in middle.
Yep.
That is called Sushupna.
The
Sushupna.
Shushumna through the middle, yes.
Yeah, middle.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I've read about this, yeah.
yeah, once it has been, it's nothing to read actually. This is to experience. It is to experience. When we experience, it is like very beautiful, and whoever is experiencing it for first time, their entire understanding will change, because perception will never be in as same as before.
Hmm.
They can.
This is what I think happened to me, and it is the only thing that explained what happened to me. And it's a sort of state of heaven and hell.
Yeah,
Like
it's
inside
because
it feels like heaven, and then outside your house, your life turns to hell.
that is why yogis goes to remote places. They leave everything. Once, most of the
Yeah.
times what happens is like, once this energy is started to channelize properly through their ida and pingala, what happens is like, they neglect all other things, because you can't see your father, because he's just another being, just like you. There is no relationship between you and your father. There is no relationship between you and your mother. There will be no relationship between you and your son, because all, there is no you and there is no your son. It's just you. There is no two entity. No, there is no two entity will be there. It's all you. So why do you need to have a relationship? The perception changed. So whatever happening. This is some cases it's happens suddenly without any exercise or without taking any medicines. What happens is like, they start to feel like they are uh, they are an alien in their own house. Till yesterday, it was their house. From today, they are an
Hmm.
alien in their own house. So that people will leave their houses, they go to remote places, and what this is high and erotic joy which will open up in mind. It is nothing but God. You started to experience God. The other, especially people comes from Semitic religions, this is like very difficult to understand also, because according to them, God is somebody who is sitting on top. But non-Semitic religions like Buddhism, Jainism, Parsi, Sikhism, these people can understand what is this is actually is about. Uh, and once you capable to channelize this particular explosion which is happening inside you in your daily work, you are the perfect yogi. So you can channelize the
If that is
goals.
the story, it
You can
sounds
channel.
very idyllic, but I don't think it's that simple and that easy. I think there's a path to walk, and there's
Yeah.
also a lot of
It's not
healing
so
to be
easy.
done.
It's not
It's
so
not so
easy.
easy, no.
It's not
The
so easy.
awakening is just the beginning, yeah.
Awakening is the you. Enlightenment is so simple. Enlightenment is so simple. Anybody can get it, but the true essence of the life can be only squeezed out from it when you are capable to live in the society with the enlightened state. This is very, very difficult because you have to deal with a bunch of people, those who are caught in a space and time named as mother and father, whereas there is no relationship is existing at all.
They, the way I picture it is, it's like we have a soul that's connected to this body, but we also have this monster that lives on top of us called the ego. And the ego, it relates us to things. The ego tells us, oh, but you are a mother, and oh, you are an accountant, or you don't like dogs, or you don't like this. And it's a monster. We grew up with this our whole lives. This monster has caused us a lot of pain in the past, and it's like a whole spider web that's taken over. And I'd probably say, like, using the energy, there are times when I've seen glimpses of what it's like not to have an ego. So, and I didn't know what was going on, and it's amazing, and you get this sort of clarity of thought, and it's very beautiful what you're saying, but it made me think of that where you sort of view other people as, well, they're just spirits stuck with other monsters on top of them. There's no reason why should I behave differently to this one and this one and that one. It's actually, we're all just one. We're all just one, with all these sort of stuck with all these monsters living on top of our spirit. And then you walk outside and you see people with these egos, and I start thinking, like, well, who am I to judge them? Because I also have an ego, and this ego also does terrible things, and it makes my life difficult. But there's those little glimpses sometimes that you get, like, oh, that's what it's like not having an ego. And it's a beautiful moment. And I think that is where, what they call enlightenment, is when you can have that the whole time.
Enlightenment is
I
the
think
state.
this is the way I like to think about it. But
Enlightenment is the, enlightenment is getting the test of the total. Enlightenment is just getting the taste of the total. That is not self-realization. Self-realization is some
not
more
self.
more than that of the enlightenment. Self-realization is when we start to live with the glimpse which we already had, and we are applying that into our life. That is called self-realization. Then from there are samadhi is there. Samadhi is people's, when they die, people feel they die, but the death is not there. It is just an illusion as the life as it is. Life is an illusion and death also an illusion. And when you go into the temple, you can see the Shivalinga is being placed inside the temple, and drops of water will be putting on the top of the Shivalinga with the mantra. So what is this is saying is that when you reach the state of samadhi, in that particular place, you are neither alive and you are not dead also. So that is forever. That is called eternity. That is called eternity. So yeah, from there, that is cosmic, you know. You're gone
But
into.
that's
But
the eighth level of yoga. I think in Hatha
Ashtanga
yoga,
yoga,
the
they
eighth
say.
Ashtanga yoga,
But
yeah.
Patanjali says this is there is actually there are four kind of yoga is been said in Bhagavad Gita. That is karma yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, and karma yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, and
Hatha
bhakti yoga.
yoga?
Bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga,
Okay.
bhakti yoga. So yoga, the word yoga means is a union.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a union. So when you got the state of total, when the Kundalini awoken and your consciousness exploded and you got the taste of union, now you are applying this understanding of the total in the work you do.
Mm.
So what happens, you can do this work in four ways. One is jnana yoga. Jnana yoga, you can apply this understanding in jnana means collecting knowledge. You will be reading books to books, that thing, this thing, and try to analyze what is happening, try to see what is perception, what all other perceptions are going inside the mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is jnana yoga. Then there
Yeah.
is bhakti yoga. So what you see is like you understood the total and you start to see it into bhakti. Like for instance, you see Jesus. But suddenly you started to see Jesus everywhere. Wherever I touch, that is Jesus. This is Jesus. My mother is Jesus. My father is Jesus. I eat is what I eat is Jesus. When I go to toilet, there is Jesus. Everywhere Jesus. This is bhakti yoga.
Like an extreme synchronicity.
Extreme, yeah, extreme synchronicity. When
Synchronicity.
yeah, it could be Jesus also. It could be anything.
It could be, yeah, understood.
Yeah,
Anything really, yeah.
yeah, anything really is not needed to be. Then Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the intuition. You basically gonna trust what is gonna happen, what is appearing inside your mind, inside you, not in your mind. Something will appear in you, and suddenly mind will come. So, for instance,
Okay.
something like appearing in on you. So let me do this. So second thought, mind will start to analyze what will happen if I do this. This is from the mind. So the first thing
Yes.
is intuition. That is
You
Raja
go
Yoga.
backwards. Go backwards. Like meditation. You
It's,
you,
it's,
you
it's
seek the
appearing.
original thought.
It's
You're right.
appearance. It's appearance. There is nothing. It has nothing to do with mind,
And
thought, intellect. Nothing. It's just appearance.
just appear. Okay, okay.
That is,
Appearance in a sort of thoughtless state. Is that
yeah, that is total state, and something will come and you will do that. This is appearing.
right?
It has nothing to
Wow.
do with the thought. So that is Raja Yoga. Then Karma Yoga. You do job. When you
Hmm.
do job, you feel very good, satisfied, and everything. So this is Karma Yoga. So there are total four kind of yogas are being said in
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita. Yoga
Like
is nothing but
a purpose.
uh,
A
union with the absolute.
union.
Yeah, that is the only meaning of yoga.
Thank you.
Uh,
I'm writing this down.
uh, yeah. So the Kata yoga is like exercise which we do, Ashtanga yoga, all those things. Exercise is basically to evoke the Kundalini.
Hmm.
And there is other effects of the yoga. I mean the Kata yoga, which involves our body. That exercise, there is other effect also there. It will improve your sexuality. It will improve the
Hmm.
quality of your life. It will improve your
Hmm.
health. All those. This is side effect. I mean, this, that is not the aim of the yoga.
Yeah, it's so strange. I started doing yoga I mean, I never used to think anything of that was, I used to think it was so silly and stupid and all of that. But it was only after the awakening when I looked at this video and I thought, okay, I'll just try a bit of yoga. And I had just simple stretches and I could feel the energy sort of just stretch in my body. And I thought like, oh, wow, this can really, because I had like energy getting stuck in certain areas sometimes. Whereas actually, if you did yoga, it could actually stretch it out and let the energy release. And I actually think this is why people do the Western yoga is all about moving the body and stuff. And that together with certain breathing exercises and meditation helped me immensely. I actually think that together with some form of sexual release is probably the best thing for anyone going through any form of energy moving through their body too much and problems with that. I think you have to meditate and do yoga. That is at least the physical side of things. But I came to it very naturally, and it's only like now in retrospect, and I realized like how it just sort of came to me, and I started doing it and I also realized if I do too much, then that's also bad, because then like there's too much energy moving around. So there was this sort of balance to find. But I found the meditations probably like an hour per day is a good balance. And then I just sort of see where it goes. I had to figure this all out myself. I didn't have anyone guide me, and the guidance that was there was, I thought, really poor. I still think it's quite poor. Just speaking to you now, I'm learning a lot.
Thank you, it's my honor.
There's a reason you Googled me.
Yeah. For everything will happen for a reason. There is nothing is like everything happens for a reason. I believe that.
What would you say? I don't know how exposed you are to, like, you live in India, so
Yes.
you must know what Western culture is like, because there's a lot of Western culture influence. But what would you say to Westerners watching this podcast? I mean, if I was a Westerner, I would just not believe it. I would think, no, this is silly, just people saying silly things. And the only thing I could really tell people is that it's an experience. And then the experience is so intense that you just literally start changing your mind about things. I literally have opposite opinions of what I used to have before about almost everything. And then, like, how is that even possible? Like, I was, put it this way, it's not that I have opposite opinions, it's more like my opinions are wider. So, as an example, I used to call myself a capitalist. So I believe in the free market and people have choices. I didn't like communism because in my country, the Russians put a lot of stress on South Africa, and it kept the apartheid system going for a long time, mostly because of pressure from the communists. So I didn't like communism and I like capitalism. But now I actually view it, and I still see a lot of people arguing between capitalism and communism, but I now see it as both sides are actually just the ego trying to make sense of a way we can live together. It's trying to make rules because people don't care about each other. So they make rules of when they do something, they need to, what happens with the stuff they do, and capitalism, communism, all these different ways of doing things are actually just different ways the ego is trying to deal with the suffering it causes. So I could say this is my opinion now, but it's not really my opinion, it's just what I'm noticing. I feel actually, I don't really have an opinion about it. It's like if I see people arguing about capitalism, communism, and that has happened a lot. That sort of, I'll call it like a dualistic way of thinking. People either think it's black or it's white. Like people will say, I'm vegan or I'm a meat eater. The meat eaters eat meat every day, every meal, all the time, and the vegans never, 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 never. Well, there's no one in between. And I think this is a very sort of egotistical way of thinking about things. It's one or the other. And they can't think of anything in between. And I've actually found myself that I don't have an opinion, which is good for you. Maybe being vegan is healthy, but then there's also unhealthy things about it. Eating meat all day is also unhealthy, but maybe there's, I don't know. I could talk about my experiences about it and so on, but I feel
So,
like,
what I feel is like whatever is making you to feel good, you could basically use it. Whether if communism is making you to feel good, you can join the communist army, and if you feel like capitalism is making you to feel good, you can join the capitalistic forces. And but if you are having a filter whether what I am doing to me is actually gonna affect the other, if whether it is gonna disturb the
mhm,
other or not,
exactly.
if there is a filter is there, then the life will be become like a heaven. Otherwise it will be looks like
And
hell.
do I care? Do I care?
Sorry.
That is the main question. Because when life becomes erotic,
Hmm.
as you were saying in the beginning, when
Hmm.
life becomes erotic, when you're making love with everything and everyone, you can't but not care. You care. You care about everything. You can't. It's almost impossible for you to do something that would then want to hurt something
Yes,
else,
yes, yes, yes.
because you don't hurt someone you're having sex with. You don't hurt things that you're making love to. You. It's a it's a
Yeah,
confusing thought for it's a
no,
confusing thought to
basically,
my scientific
basic,
brain.
no, basically having sex or making love. I don't like to use the word sex also. Making love to the other is actually a way of expressing what you are. That is the easiest
Hmm.
way to you to express what you are to the other. You know,
Yeah, the word making love, I agree, is
making love.
it, yeah, it's not necessarily making it, it's an expression of the love that's already there.
Yeah, self-expression of the love. You know, yeah. So the when the words are changing, the depth of the experience also will change, and that is certainly divine.
Okay, so that is my story and the exercises.
Yeah,
Um,
only one exercise you taught me. Next one.
sorry, the exercises.
You taught me only one, right?
Yes, I was doing the orgasmic breathing. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the sort of first step to it.
Mm-hmm.
The next part is actually when you do that breathing and you
Mm-hmm.
tighten the muscles, you
Mm-hmm.
feel a certain heat. And this can take quite a while, sometimes 10, 15 minutes and so on. It feels like, it feels almost like a golf ball size, maybe a bit smaller. And it's
Mm-hmm.
usually somewhere, it's your root chakra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's
Muladhara.
not the base of the spine. It's maybe a bit more forward. It's not quite where your prostate is. It's maybe a bit more towards the perineum.
Mm-hmm.
So there where we were sitting on earlier,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like an inch inwards. I find most people get it around there. Some people have it a much wider area. But when you breathe into it and you tighten those muscles, you get this sort of heat. Sometimes it also feels like tingling, almost like pins and needles, but
Mm-hmm.
like in your perineum. Now that, if you then stop, it then dissipates. It just goes away, it just fades away, and so on. Sometimes even if you push, it'll come and go, come and go. But if you practice more, you can end up keeping it there for a long time. But if you just keep it there, it's not going to do anything. So an orgasm is movement. It's moving energy. So
Mm-hmm.
an orgasm is like when yin and yang come together. If they can grow big on both sides, but if they don't come together, you're not going to orgasm. So we need to move that. We need to move the energy up the spine. And
Mm-hmm.
this is like, I would probably say, a whole different way of doing it. And I've also, in certain yoga, they teach this, they call it spinal breathing. So you keep the muscle exercises going, but then you move your focus of your brain, you move it to the back of your sacrum, which is where the second chakra. So as you feel that heat, then you change your focus to your sacrum and you keep focusing. Scientifically, this is where the pelvic nerves, the pudendal nerve and the pelvic nerves come out. They're really close together. So all the nerves that feed your genitals and so on come out at these same places. These are called plexes. So the science is that the plexes are the same place as your chakra points. Makes sense. If you focus there, you can almost feel that tingling at the bottom of your chakra, of your sacrum. So at the top of your coccyx, bottom, and then you just focus there until it starts buzzing, and then you go up the next one, and then you go sort of where your solar plexus is, but on your spine, so just above the small of your back, and you keep focusing there, then that's buzzing, and then you go, so it's buzzing, 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 and then you go to the back of the heart, and then the back of the neck, and then, so the place, we always talk about the third eye, but it's actually got in the spine is the part, is the top of the spine here. You can often feel a tingle there, and that's where the nerves actually go. And then the spirit chakra is the top of the head. So you do, and then you focus on all ones until they're all buzzing, and they're all buzzing, and so on. And when they're all buzzing, this could take quite a while, and so on. When they're all buzzing, that's then you imagine them all come up to the top of the head and they drop down the front. And this you could do all in your head. They come down the bottom. So usually for men, I'll just continue where I was.
Yeah.
So usually for men, it's easier for them to, because they're mostly bottom chakra based, it's easier for them to pull it up the spine, and for women more difficult. And then for men, it's more difficult to pull it down the front, and then for women, easier. Again, it's not a rule, but it's usually a tendency and so on. Then when the energy comes down the front and hits your genitals, you can have massively big orgasm, yeah. But you don't have to go all the way up to the top of the head. You can make little mini circles, yes. But you start at the bottom, you bring it up to, say, the heart, and then down from the heart to there. And you keep moving it and moving it and moving it. And so you go focus till it buzzes, focus till it buzzes, then move it and move it. And in the beginning, it takes ages. You focus, you breathe, and then the heat disappears, then you have to start again, and so on. Then the more you do it, you feel this buzzing, 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 and then it's buzzing, and then at some point, one day, it took me 6 months. And you do it every day. If you miss a day, you've missed 3 days of exercise, because it takes you back. Have to do it every day. And then when it comes down at the bottom, you can have a big genital orgasm just by moving it. And it feels strange in the beginning because it's more spread out. It's not so focused in the penis, it's more spread out. So for a woman, this would be related to a clitoral orgasm. Women will also get cervical orgasms, also through the anus, and also G-spot orgasms, which is the urethral sponge. But in the end, an orgasm doesn't actually matter where you stimulate someone. That is just what you were taught from a really young age, that this is the pleasure I receive. And you could, if you teach yourself, orgasm from touching your hand. Or you don't even need stimulus if you can do it with your mind. So a lot of people, they have these terms of, oh, I had a cervical orgasm or a prostate orgasm. That's just the part that was stimulated. And usually, because we're not used to moving the energy, we then orgasm in the same spot where we get the stimulus. But if you can actually, my favorite spot is focusing on the heart, but more towards the back of the spine. Because when you focus there, it's sort of the orgasm spreads over your whole body. It's a great place to orgasm while you have sex, and focus on that, because you're automatically pulling the energy up and you're getting ready for a full body orgasm. Yeah, I've found very few readings and books that talk about orgasm in this way. They often tell you, try this toy or try this stimulation, but those are just the patterns that we've taught ourselves already. Those are the patterns we've taught ourselves on how to have orgasm from a very young age. And that can be changed, and you change it with a focus of your mind. So you use the breathing as the pathway and use the sounds as the pathway. So you're telling your body, we're ready to orgasm now. And then you keep doing it and keep practicing and keep practicing. And unfortunately, the body, it takes a long time to learn, and the body be developing these habits since you were born. So to change them takes a lot of dedication and I would say even passion.
No, there is a passion is needed to get more and more experience in life, you know. Once the passion is lost, you can't move forward. I mean, it's all done.
Yeah, and someone can order you to do this, like a teacher, smack the hands, do this every day.
It will be really funny if somebody is going to school and teacher is like with this thing.
It's like your teacher, they can teach you a new language, and they can tell you, you learn eins, zwei, drei, now you learn German. But if you don't have a passion for it, you'll never speak that language, because once you leave school, you stop. You say, well, I hated my teacher, I hated that. So it needs to come from within. I would say it's like a relationship with orgasm. For me, I found when I could start orgasming, it's all I wanted to do. I just felt so amazing. Oh my God, wow. And I've spoken to quite a few other people that have had the same experience, that they had this inner passion for orgasm and it changed their life tremendously. And I actually think you're not just dealing with sexual energy, you're dealing with a pathway towards God.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about that, because it has been, that is what the Advaita philosophy is all about. If you dig deep into that, the tantric text, basically the Saundarya Lahari, which is from India, the Saundarya Lahari is all about the beauty of the goddess. So it's
the
like
beauty of the goddess.
it's high-end erotical work, which from Sri Shankaracharya. If you can understand the Sanskrit, it's high-end erotic work, because mysticism itself, the more depth you go inside your mind, what you can see is just erotica. You will become more and more erotic. This is actual experience. I'm talking from actual experience. It's not like I read from somewhere and I understood. It's a more and more you dig deep into the mantras, you listen to the mantras more, you experiment yourself with the different kind of sounds. I'm so curious about myself, because I know that I am gonna die, and why I am here. So I experiment with so many things in my own body. So the more and more you become the center, the actual thing, what you can say is erotic. It's not, and I think once the erotic also will go, and the remainder will be love.
Well, erotic and love becomes the same thing.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, that. You wanna go through your chart? Something.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to my podcast. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in, where you could see my contact details, including my phone number, my WhatsApp, and email ID. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes.